Hello and welcome to the program, The Love of People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. It's a brand new month and, of course, a brand new week. And today we'll be discussing brand new things as Nigeria turns 63. So, happy Independence Day, Nigeria. Well, it was yesterday, but we're still celebrating today. Welcome once again to the program that explains government policies to the people. My name is Rachel David White, and as usual, I'm joined by Xavier Roberts. Welcome once again.
Hello, Rachel. Glad to be back on set, and happy Independence Day as well.
Yes, I almost called you Nigeria. Of course you are Nigeria. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
Of course.
Okay, so today we'll be looking at some issues as Nigeria turns 63. And before then, majorly we'll be looking at, the highs and, of course, the lows, the challenges that Nigeria has faced so far. One would believe that at 63 years, there are some things we may have grown past by now, but it's still lingering. And part of those things are the strike action that, the NLC and TUC are threatening. Well, the first story would be looking at today is let's get to Nasarawa State and find out what's happening. While the Nasarawa State governorship election petitions tribunal has upturned the election petitions tribunal rather has obtained the electoral victory of Governor Abdullahi Sule. The three-man panel of justices led by Justice Ezekiel Ajayi delivered the split judgment today via Zoom. While Nasarawa Election Petitions Tribunal has sacked Governor Sule actually, and three commuter they talking about all of this. They were talking about some of the events that took place, and of course, talking about that the tribunal has also upheld the election of Governor Fintiri, that's of Adamawa, actually, and dismissed the SDP's petition. That's another thing that happened in Adamawa State as well. And of course, talking about Emmanuel Ombudagu, the opposition People's Democratic Party, as the winner of that election. Well, two of the justices agreed that the election was won by the PDP, while one judge dissented differently. Well, Justice Ezekiel maintained that the petitioner was able to prove his case beyond reasonable doubt. So this kind of things taking places, it looks like what happened here in Akwa Ibom State when the election petition tribunal actually upheld the victory of Governor Moino. And of course, the governor had said his faith in the judiciary is rock solid. It's still there. So saying that there are some persons or some panels who are able to overturn the election result or victory announcement of some governors and some who actually, I would say, of the truth. This person actually won the election. This shows us that the Nigerian judiciary to a certain level is still
is maturing,
active. Yes.
Yeah, but then another thing that strikes me, Rachel, have you noticed that recently our courts seem to be delivering judgments via Zoom?
Oh,
that doesn't strike you as
okay? So
maybe we would get an expert to really
what are they scared of?
Why it's Zoom these days, especially when they want to maybe give a judgment that goes contrary to what would be the popular view. I see them using Zoom these days.
I think it also averts some level of insecurity, and of course. Nigerian, some things that may have happened, happened in a court where some persons would come in with their, supporters. There's one thing about politicians and their supporters. We talked about it before. Now, these politicians may have sought their differences or, immediately after the announcement, they go somewhere, sort their differences, shake hands, but the supporters hate themselves, fight amongst themselves, of course.
Make a fuss out of it when the people directly involved are not even making it that serious. You see them, the cameras picture them doing all sorts of friendly things, and then you are the supporter. You make a fuss out of the whole issue.
It's just like
quite
football.
strange. Yeah, football.
Okay, so let's come back to Nigeria at 63. Now, this is the main discuss we'll be taking a look at today. Well, Nigeria clocked 63, and it seems the only source of consolation is the fact that it is not under a military junta to some extent. Yeah, this is so because civilian rule has left much to be desired. Now, the majority of Nigerians have become familiar with reoccurring challenges that successive governments have not been able to address for over 6 decades of independence. So as a result, Nigerians continue to suffer from unfulfilled aspirations, uncertain future, and even hopelessness sometimes. So it is hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Poverty, extreme inequality, insecurity, high and rising youth unemployment, and huge infrastructure deficit define the Nigerian social and fiscal milieu right now.
Well, at independence in 1960, Nigeria was one of the most promising new states that came out of colonial rule in Africa. Indeed, it was described as the giant of Africa. During the first few years, shortly after independence, it broke new grounds. The economy, which previously relied on the export of agricultural produce, began to benefit from the export of crude oil. The economy grew rapidly, education was progressively expanded at all levels, and roads and communication networks were constructed far beyond what was inherited from colonial rule. Hydroelectric dams and secondary industries and automobile assembly plants were built, but these apparently did not ward off political crisis.
Well, by 1966, democracy was toppled in a bloody coup by the military. Now, the military rule led to a 30-month civil war, and the oil boom in the 1970s helped Nigeria to actually recover rapidly from its civil war and carried out rapid industrialization. Many manufacturing industries sprang up, and the economy experienced rapid growth, about 8% per year. That made Nigeria, by 1980, the largest economy in Africa. And the growth, however, was not sustained. So the country experienced food shortages in the 1970s and the 1980s, which necessitated the importation of food. Poverty became widespread. Now Nigerians live under a collapse of even basic infrastructure and social services. So Nigeria's debts have continued to mount. Like in the 1980s, external borrowing and subsidies on fuel prices feature in every debate about the precarious economy and its lack of diversification to sustain development.
Interestingly, in his independence speech, President Bola Tinubu acknowledged that forging a nation based on principles of peace and progress, common prosperity and harmony, tolerance and justice had been a significant challenge.
Wow.
Indeed, the recent removal of subsidy and devaluation of the naira have reduced the purchasing power of the average Nigerian and thrown millions of them into abject poverty. It is clear that the current government is not apprised of the gravity of the adverse consequences of these policies, but the president has promised to enhance the federal minimum wage by paying 25,000 naira per month for the next 6 months to the average low-grade worker. In addition, he emphasized that his government had embarked on several public sector reforms to stabilize the economy, direct fiscal and monetary policy, to fight inflation, encourage production, and ensure the security of lives and property, Rachel.
Well, but, the question is, has the president estimated that all these policies will arrest inflation and achieve result in 6 months when the 25,000 naira payment is to low-grade workers will end? If in the first 4 months of his administration, we're talking about banditry, we're talking about kidnapping, we still have like 8 Akwa Ibom core members still in the den of the kidnappers, and crime has continued to increase. So how does he hope to, dispel the discontent and a dark cloud of hopelessness that looms on the horizon of the independence celebrations? Now, there is an urgent need to move the country away from the principles towards unity, security, and even stability. So this cannot be achieved by unrealistic poverty wages and salaries that shrink the markets by taking essential services and commodities beyond the reach of average Nigerians. Now, public sector and other poverty wage earners will cope by taking advantage of their positions to augment income, thereby deepening rent-seeking and non-responsiveness by the government and eroding commitment to the common good. Yet, to build a successful society and nation, well, there must be deliberate effort by the government to promote equity, justice, the rule of law, accountability.
Well, central to these principles, I believe, is the imperative of reducing inequality and fighting corruption. On these two important variables, the government has been mute. So, similarly, Nigeria's political elites have failed to take up the responsibility of reducing inequality and addressing corruption.
Yeah.
Rather than sacrificing on behalf of the communities that make up Nigeria, they seem to have embarked on primitive accumulation. They have preyed on the resources of the state for individual profit and aggrandizement, and we see this in different fora, Rachel. They have instituted predatory governance at every level, and this has been demonstrated by the speed with which President Tinubu allocated funds to the National Assembly and the judiciary while dithering on addressing the plight of the average Nigerians. These have been real concerns raised by people. This approach will further, they believe it will further delegitimize the state and erode patriotism, that it cannot renew the hope of Nigerians, rather it will further dampen it.
Well, Xavier, we believe that it is not too late for the government to rethink some of its policies. They're akin to the structural adjustment policies that failed in the 1990s. Well, the president, must re-strategize and return the country to the path of growth and development, which I think is going towards that path. I mean, we've watched his speeches in the UN and all of that, taking the opportunity of the independence anniversary to reflect on the enviable and precarious state of the country and begin to work to change the narrative and herald a return to progress, actually, away from the dog eat dog, cake sharing competition and predatory approach to governance. Their requirements are not prohibitive or unattainable. So a big and multi-ethnic federation like Nigeria ought to rest on a decentralized design that enables the constitutive unit to compete around productive activities. So the structure of the federation should enable the harnessing of the varying potentials of the constitutive units in the various sectors based on the rule of law. So the rule of law, equity and justice, value for hard work, and even innovations, which are the true basis of the development. So this is a concrete change for of perspective and perception that should guide reflection as Nigeria moves on from the celebration of its 63rd independence. And these are some of the virtues that we need to think about from now on. Away from, sometimes we shy away from the reality and then we hide under the fact that, we're doing great. Sometimes we need to sit back and really take a look at the challenges that we are still facing. At 63, you like to compare other countries that gain independence and of course the heights they have attained. They also have their issues as well, but we love to learn the positives from them and also see where Nigeria is actually lacking behind, and then we'll see how we can upgrade and get better. Meanwhile, we should just see if our guest is ready so we can talk properly and address some issues as Nigeria turns 63. So we'll quickly go on a short break. When we come right back, the show still continues. So do stay tuned. We are coming right back.
allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigeria Police Force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian Police Force.
No, my Lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My Lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my Lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
All right, welcome back to the program. It's still the program, The Law, the People and Governance. And as Nigeria turns 63, there's so many issues we need to address. So welcome back. Welcome back, Xavier.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's quickly get into the meat of the day.
Yeah, of course, we had some arguments offset. And of course, it's time to bring those arguments on the table as well. All right, so I guess we're being joined already by our guest who is should be on standby rather. Good evening and welcome to the show, Paulinus Peter.
Thank you very much. Good evening and happy independence to you, Spectrum TV.
Happy Independence Day to you too. Happy 63rd birthday. 63rd birthday to you, Paulinus Peter. How you doing?
Femi, I'm very good. Nice to be with you once again. How are you?
I'm fine. I want to ask you one question. As Nigeria turns 63, how do you feel? So let me attribute it to you. As you turn 63, how are you doing?
Well, first and foremost, with the sense of freedom, with the sense of independence, whether we have it to the fullest or not, and whether we have it in reality or not, but for the very fact that our country, politically, if not for any other thing, is independent, then that makes me to feel good. That makes me to feel proud. That makes me to feel, yes, of course, that our affairs are not being detected from outside the shores of this country. So that's a thing of joy, that's a thing of pride, that's a thing that will make any individual to feel good. So to that extent, I give God the glory, and I would say happy independence to all of us as Nigerians.
Wow. Okay, thank you so much. So now let's quickly get to, talk about the challenges that we have as Nigerians, Nigeria still faces. Now, at 63, what are those things that you could easily point out, and say these are the things that I expected that before 63 we should have, corrected our errors on this path? What are those things?
Inability to produce what we consume. And you agree with me that any economy that cannot produce what it consumes, then to that extent there is a problem. So at 63, Nigeria ought to have been able to produce at least, if not in totality, over 80% of what it consumes. So our inability to produce what we consume is what that is worrisome as a country that has grown to 63. The next one is because we have not been able to produce what we consume. That compels us to entirely depend on foreign goods, and that has, to that extent, destroy what should have actually worked for us as a country. So these things, though they are closely related, is what will make us to feel and ask ourselves, are we truly independent? A situation where we have to import everything, no matter how common that thing seems to be, then it's what we should be worried about. Is what we should regret about, that the giant strides that our founding fathers made in the early 70s and late 80s, talking about a situation whereby some of the gadgets, electronic gadgets used in this country were assembled in this country. There was a time that vehicles assembled in Nigeria was official vehicles to our government, and that. So we lost all that at 63. Then it's something that I, as a person, is not happy about, and it's something that I know that it does not occur well for the country. It's something that I wouldn't wish it to continue for so long, because it's destroying every fiber of this country with the attendant effects. A situation where you cannot actually produce what you consume, then how will the economy grow? How will there be employment? How will there be opportunities? So that's a problem. That's a problem. And that's where we are regretting because for us, it seems that the independence we are enjoying, celebrating, and talking about only seems to be that of flag and flag independence, or if you like, political independence. Then when it comes to economy and other aspects of national life, then we are at the mercies of other countries, even to our neighboring African countries. Because like today, looking at our educational sector, it seems that our neighbors, Ghana, is far away of us. You have a situation where Nigerian students
are rushing to
out of
Ghana.
the country to other African countries for education. Then it's worrisome. It's worrisome. So these are the things that are regrettable about our country at the very age of 63, because talk about 63, if you want to equate it to a human, a 63 years old human is an adult.
He's a grandfather.
That actually arrives to some extent. He's a grandfather to that extent. So a grandfather that is still crawling. It gives all a whole sense of worry and that. But all hope is not lost. Let's keep believing in ourselves. Let's keep talking to ourselves. Let's keep, if we can come to a level where we will call a spade, because some of the problems of this country is us trying to, what is white, we try to say it is not white, it is this, for whatever consideration, be it political, be it ethnic, be it whatever. But if we can rise above all these biases and sentiments and come to a state whereby we can actually call a spade, and then that should be the beginning of the greatness of this country. So that's my take, and that's what I feel about our country at independence.
Mr. Paulinus, happy Independence Day once again.
Thank you very much.
It's 63 years, and as much as we try not to sugarcoat what's happening, there's a lot of things, a lot of areas that are going wrong in this country, and a lot of work to be done by the leaders of this country to see that we steer the sheep of growth, the sheep of development, the sheep of reaching our aspirations as a country. There are a lot of areas that needs to be fixed. We are 63, for crying out loud. I have it on good record that there was a period in this country where a dollar was almost 1 naira. But fast forward to 2023, that's not what's happening. We're almost at 1,000 naira to a dollar. And it begs the question, are we really, are the labors of our heroes past still, is it going to be in vain, or is there hope that we are going to reach that point in our national lives where things get to turn around for the people of this country? Just recently, we just heard that the president has approved 35,000 naira for federal workers. The next question to ask is, what about other people that are in the private sector? What about people that are not under the government employ? What happens to the hawker in the street, the person pushing trucks to survive? What's the government doing? What has
to
been put
alleviate
in
the
place
suffering,
to ensure that the sufferings that these people are going through are ameliorated? These are some of the pertinent questions. What would be your take on practical steps the government should take to ensure that people that have not been reached are reached? And is 35,000 naira enough to cushion the effects of what's truly happening in this country? Or is this just peanuts to shut people up and make people continue to wallow in penury?
What even happens after 6 months?
Yes, what happens after these 6 months that have been pegged for these funds to be disbursed to federal workers?
Well, you have said it all, but I will appreciate it, or I will have appreciated it better if your questions are what should the government do compared to what are the government doing? While I say it should be what should the government do, because you and I know that as it is now, what the government is not what they should do, and what they are doing is not actually aimed at, or there's no hope inside of providing solutions to the myriad of problems we are having in the country. So if the question should actually be what should the government do, or I would like to take it from that perspective, because talking about giving 35,000 naira to the federal civil servants. Just like you rightly said, what is the money for? Then what happens to the majority? Because as far as we know, the working class, the civil servants are a kind of a minute percentage compared to the larger percentage of the masses. So if you are coming to say that you are giving these people 35,000 naira, then I am of the opinion that the money so pronounced, for me, is a kind of continuing, romancing the symptoms of the problem of the country. And you don't solve problems that way. I said it some time ago that our inability to trace or to tackle problems from the root cause has always been the problem we are having in this country. So coming to talk about the offer that the government has made, for me, I think is a way of trying to buy in the labor leaders, because the government have not been categorical in its approach to solving most of the problems confronting us. They have not come out to say that they have actually increased the salary and wages structures of the civil servant. They are only saying that within these 6 months, which is to say they are just trying to manage the anger in the land. I don't know if you understand my point. They are just trying to manage the pressure. And it is to that extent that I would say that Nigerians should not cow in. Nigerians should not be allowed themselves to be taken for granted. So is to actually come out with policies and programs that will address and tackle the root causes of the problem of this country. And some of the problem is unemployment. So how do you solve the problem of unemployment? I know there are some school of thoughts that are of the view that our government has no business in business. But as a third world country, I would say we have not come to that stage, we have not come to that level where government would totally absolve itself of going into business with a view to providing employment and other opportunities for the citizens. So the government should come up with programs and policies that will get towards creating employment opportunities. So that said, I expect the government to actually put in a whole lot of things on ground, to building factories, to constructing and creating other economic ventures that will create opportunity for employment, opportunity for wealth generation and creation, so that the people themselves can actually be able to take care of themselves. God is facing the people that are crying for hunger, and they are coming with like what they call palliative, few cups of rice, and to the people that since you are crying for hunger, just take this and keep quiet. And unfortunately, people are taking it and they are keeping quiet. But the next day, what is happening? Has that problem been solved? So I expect the government to be practical in solving the issues of that generates the problem that we are having. And that's one of the issues, or one of the problems is that of employment opportunities, is that of conducive environments. Because you need to see the way the Nigerian people are suffering to make ends meet. There is no infrastructures that support entrepreneurship. There is no enabling environment that aids business. That's what they call aid to trade.
Okay.
Those things. You look at good rates. You look at infrastructures like uninterrupted power supply, so that a common man that have what it takes to make money for himself or herself can actually do that without without hindrances as a result of lack of amenities and infrastructures in the economy.
Okay, Paulinus Peter, now you talked and you mentioned something, but you skipped something. Now, we're talking about 35,000 naira, advancement in, salary for the federal workers for 6 months is actually what we need. Now, we're having NLC and TUC clamor for, increment and all of that, putting in some demands on the table of the government. Is that what we really need to solve the problem at hand? What happens after 6 months? Away from that, you talked about palliatives, and then, of course, you already said it's not enough. I mean, talking about palliative, I think I really need to set out time to ask people, or maybe we should do a survey to ask people, how many people have gotten the palliatives that the federal government has given? Paulino Peter, have you gotten any palliative from the government? I mean, you are a beneficiary by right of citizenship.
Well, for me, as you might know, I'm not actually been supporting the idea of palliative. That's because no economy survives through palliatives. Now, if you want to look at the problem of Nigerian state, in practical terms, you will see that the suffering in the land or the hunger or what is happening, the actual problem are actually created by government. Now, what do I mean by that? You have the issue where people are actually working, but looking at the condition of service, looking at the working environment, the terms and condition of service, you will see that people are actually working without anything to show for it. So if the government actually wants to address this artificial hardship, because this is system created, this is government created, I will expect the government to come up with a policy of abrogating casualization of workers. I don't know if you are listening to me.
I am.
Because
go ahead.
This is one of the things. This is one of the things that is impoverishing Nigerians. This is one of the things that is making poverty to be on the high side. Because you have a situation whereby people are actually working, but they took unpaid. The condition of service is actually causing them to work without anything to show for it. So government should come up with a policy that will abrogate, casualization of workers, so that the welfare of workers can actually be taken care of through legislation. I don't know if you understand my point. There was a time that if a given family has one or two persons working, then because we are African, our system is different. African system is not for a extended family system. I don't know if you understand my point. But now what happens, you have some people that are working, but what they take home cannot actually take them home. And that. So government should come with policy that will strengthen a good reward system for workers in one hand. I think that one should be at the very immediate. For me, doing that, the 35,000 naira short up package that the government is trying to do and trying to offer in order to manage the anger of the people for 6 months. Government should do that. Then secondly, government should be intentional in creating institutions that will generate employment to the people. And thirdly, government should be intentional and in a hurry to put in infrastructure that will support the enterprising spirit of Nigerians, infrastructures that will support, the yearnings, as in what the capacities of Nigerians. Once these things are put in place in the immediate, over time, things will begin to take shape.
Mr. Paulino.
Things will begin to take shape. Then another thing is this: the labor leaders. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. You said the labor leaders.
The labor leaders themselves should approach whatever negotiation that they are talking about with a sense of sincerity of purpose, because we have been having a situation whereby the labor leaders are actually using the platform of labor leadership to bargain for themselves, to bargain for their interests, and not actually for the interests of the very masses that they are talking about. So insincerity of purpose on the part of government and insincerity of purpose on the part of leaders of the organized labor has always been a problem. Then aside the organized labor, government should actually know that majority or greater percentage of Nigerians are not captured, or they are not within the bracket of these organized labors that are actually part of government employees and that. So once government come up with this practical and life-touching programs and that is meant to take care of the welfare of the people and promote the welfare of the people, then we will be able to overcome some of these problems. And of course, because we are a consuming economy, whatever happens in the international market is bound to affect us. So government should actually look inward and try to see how we survive on our own What do we mean? A situation where furnitures furnitures in the offices of government officials have to be imported from outside countries. Then what are you doing?
And we're talking about cutting
killing the local economy.
cost of government.
You are simply creating. I don't know if you are with me. You are simply creating a situation where the local entrepreneurs, where the local producers cannot actually compete.
Okay, now just one question, one more question, so you could wrap it up in just a minute. Go ahead, Xavier.
Well, yes, I was going to ask you, Mr. Paulinus, it's no longer news that the labor unions are planning their strike for tomorrow, Tuesday. So far, up till this point, we've not had any announcement as to a call off for the strike because of this augmentation or jack-up of 35,000 naira by the federal government. A lot of quarters are already of the opinion that this 35,000 naira is shut up money. A way of asking the labor unions to shelve the planned strike. Now, what would be your position on the planned strike tomorrow? Do you think labor should still go ahead with the strike, or would you advise negotiations? They should return to the table.
Well, for me, I think I would support negotiations. And so far, the negotiations are carried out in a sincere way and manner. I will always back negotiation. That's because going on strike, the common people are always being at the receiving ends. The common people are not actually, the common people will be at the receiving end, because you have a situation whereby people that should legitimately go out to fend for themselves will be hindered from doing so. People that have been on their own, trying to make ends meet, and bargain on strike will now forestall them or hinder them from doing that. And at the end of the day, once the strike it is called out, who compensates these people? That has always been my line of thought. Who compensates these people for their damage and that? Now, if government is not ready to compensate them, then they should not be hindered from going out for their legitimate daily businesses and what have you. Then labor leaders, on the other hand, should, as a matter of fact, deploy some sense of patriotism and sincerity in their negotiations, understanding the fact that a greater percentage of Nigerians are not captured or are not within the brackets of the organized labors. So the labor leaders should be far-reaching in their negotiations. They should bring to the table of negotiation issues that will better the overall economy, and not just for workers. That's point number one. Then coming to also do with issues that has to do with workers. The labor leaders should be forthcoming. I have mentioned the issue of abrogation, of casualization, because that is one of the policies or practices in this country that is making people to work but nothing to show for it. So the labor leaders should put it to government that they should henceforth going forward abrogate the issue of casualization of workers. Once somebody employed another person, the condition of service should be rich enough to take care of the basic necessities of that individual or families. A situation whereby some of the money paid to employees cannot actually take care of their transportation fare. I don't know if you understand that. There's a whole lot of exploitation, whether in the public sector or in the private sector. So these are the things that the labor leaders, the practical things that they should discuss, and not how much is given to them at a particular time, and not how much is not for the labor leaders trying to use strike to get their own share of the national cake, if I should put it that way. I don't know if you understand my point. So I expect a situation whereby far-reaching negotiations will be taking place, and whatever negotiation, it should be aimed at solving the root causes of the various ills that we have in our country, solving the root causes of the various problems that we have, and not just to be romancing the symptoms of these problems. Because a situation whereby the government will say, okay, I'll be giving some category of people 35,000 for 6 months, thereafter, then the labor leaders will applaud, they will consent to that, then I feel they are not sincere to that extent. So they should tell government what government needs to hear, and not what government expects to hear. So that is that. And government on its part should be sincere in dealing with the people. We are not asking for too much. We are not asking for things that are not within the purview or within things that do not have the constitutional backup. We are asking for things that are within the armpits of the laws. Government primarily is put in place to take care of the welfare of the people. Government is put in place to protect lives and properties. So in Nigeria, we have been having government without governance. So
Okay.
enough of that. At 63, we should begin to have governance alongside government.
Thank you
Government
so
should not
much.
just exist
Thank you
for
so
the
much.
purpose of existence.
Okay.
Government should exist for the purpose of solving problems of the citizens.
Okay, thank you so much. I think you said one striking thing. Government should not just exist, you know, for, yeah, of course. Yeah. Thank you so much, Paulinus. Peter, thank you so much for coming on the show. You know, talking to you, I normally get a whole lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right. Okay, so, Xavier, I mean, because of time, our guest today has taken time to, you know, dissect and talk about some of the challenges. Yeah, and we just hope that nobody's praying for a strike action, but we hope that both the federal government and, of course, the TUC and NLC will be able to make life comfortable for Nigerians. Just a minute ago, we were told that they have arrived at the Asa Villa for another leg of the meeting. So we are hopeful that something better is going to come out of this one. This is the size of the program for today, but trust you again to join me tomorrow and the next and the next and the next. This is a fresh week and we have a whole lot to talk about. Thank you so much, Xavier.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Let's hope to do this better tomorrow. Thank you very much, viewers.
All right, don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv.ng. My name is Rachel David White. Good evening. Bye.
Robert. Bye-bye for now.